High debut at number 28 on my fantasy playlist, January 3rd, 2009. What a lovely record. Fell in love with this thing when I heard it on BBC Radio 1. Maybe it was Greg James or somebody who played it. It was late at night when I was listening to him after midnight. Well, this was here in the States. They used to have BBC Radio 1 on XM Radio. Back in the day, but Girls Aloud with The Promise at number 28 on my fantasy playlist of January 3rd, 2009. Girls Aloud, one of the all-female girl groups that were real popular in England that rose well in the wake of the Spice Girls. The Spice Girls were so phenomenal, and they had some hits here in the States, but in England and in Europe they were stupendous. And then in their wake came Girls Aloud. And Girls Aloud had an innovative approach to pop music. I'll get to that in just a minute. And there was the Sugar Babes, and there was the Saturdays in the 2000s. And you still see some of those after effects of the Spice Girls phenomenon in the 90s. You got Little Mix, I believe they're from Britain, and there was another one. I can't remember the name off the top of my head at the moment. But anyway, we got Girls Aloud at number 28. They were the brainchild. Well, actually, they were produced, or they were, I don't know what the right word is. They came about from a TV show, a talent show in Britain called Pop Stars to Rivals. ITV Pop Stars to Rivals. This was in 2002, and they had this fantastic record in 2002 that was hit in England called The Sounds of the Underground, which is kind of a different girl group sounding record. And that was because they teamed up with a production team. It was called Exnomania. Brian Higgins and Miranda Cooper, songwriters, producers, spearheaded this production team, and there was a bunch of people. Well, it was a pretty big production team, but they produced every Girls Aloud album except for one, and that's it. They produced this record, The Promise. Exnomania did, the production team. As a matter of fact, Exnomania, here's the thing about Exnomania, the production team, I hope I'm pronouncing that word right, is that they were incorporating the Motown sound. They were influenced by a lot of musical influence, and big glam, punk, Motown, the Phil Spector. Now, on this record, The Promise, they take a 60s approach to it, sort of a Phil Spector sound. The video is straight Americana. It's drive-in theaters, you got the hot dogs and all that, and you got the women on stage, very reminiscent of the Supremes. The Supremes performing on the telly, or the Supremes performing at some of the ritzy nightclubs in New York City or Las Vegas or whatever back in the 60s. And that's Girls Aloud right there, just kind of bringing that retro feel of the 60s in in that video to The Promise. Promise did very, Girls Aloud, they were huge in England. I think I read on Wikipedia that they had amassed a fortune of about 30 million pounds, and I'm not sure what that is in American dollars now, because the pound has dropped a little bit since the 2000s, but I would imagine that would be equivalent to about 40 to 60 million dollars. That's a lot of money. Has anybody ever seen 40 or 60 million dollars before in real life? They got off on sort of a rough start on The Promise. Girls Aloud, they performed this song. It was on a television show in Britain called X Factor Results. And from what I read, it was sort of a sloppy, off-key performance, and it drew a lot of criticism. But Girls Aloud, they were so hot. They were so, well, the song was just infectious. Anything that was produced by Exomania would just grab you right out of the car radio. They just produced one hit after another. And The Promise debuted at number one in Britain. It sold 77,109 copies first week of release. That is phenomenal in England. That's a lot. In Britain, since they have a lot less people over there than they do here in the States. Not nearly as big of a market there as it is here in the States. 77,000 copies, though. Wow. First week of release? Gosh bless, I tell you. Anyway, there's one other thing I want to mention about Cheryl Cole was a member of Girls Aloud. There are five women in that girl group. Cheryl Cole later went on a solo career in England, had some hit records in Britain, some of which I got on my fancy playlist back in the early 2010s. One other thing I want to bring up about Exnomania, this was a big production team. As a matter of fact, they even had their own in-house band. The Stax record label in Memphis had their own in-house band, and of course Motown had the Funk Brothers. And on the West Coast, you had the Wrecking Crew. And Exnomania, they had their own in-house band, and they had a drummer. I did just a tad of research on her. Her name was Flory Arnold. She became a drummer, but she, of course, went solo later on in 2010, and she played drums live, backing up Girls Aloud and the Pet Shop Boys. And their house band also provided the backing tracks of several of the records that Exnomania was producing. Well, there it is. Girls Aloud debuting at number. God, this is a shame that this song did not make it in America. I got to tell you something. If you're watching this video in Britain, I guarantee you, I'm the only person in Alabama. I'm the only person in the Southeast who's ever heard of the Sugar Babes, the Saturdays, and Girls Aloud. Absolutely no impact whatsoever in the States. I bet you, even if you go to Los Angeles or New York City, the entertainment centers, you'll probably be hard pressed to find someone who's ever heard of Girls Aloud. Well, anyway, a little promo for Mr. DJ, huh? All right. The Girls Aloud, nice record though. I liked it. I kind of flipped over it when I first heard it on BBC Radio 1. Lovely harmonies. Girls Aloud with a Promise making its debut at number 28 on my fantasy playlist, January 3rd, 2009.